Okay, so we'll clap on 3.
You want to clap down?
Yeah, I'll count down. So on go. 3, 2, 1, clap. Go. Get that?
What was that? What was that?
On go.
You said 3, 2, 1, clap, go.
I made a mistake. One more time. You count us down. You count us down. You count us down.
Nah, dude, I got this. Are you ready?
I choked this.
On go. So I'm gonna go 3, 2, 1, go. Okay?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. Now I'm gonna be holding it. Yeah. Got it.
All right. That's cool. All right. So, how much preparation did you do for this?
So after our phone call where we delayed it, I didn't do anything. I got a phone call from someone else, and then I was doing that for the rest of the day. So I wrote down my definitions for pleasure, suffering, good, evil, and then I wrote a bunch. Yeah, that's it.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to? Are we? Is this the official intro?
Yeah. Let's just fade in right
We've faded in, but no, you can't say that because we've already faded in.
Sorry. Okay, we'll cut that. We'll cut that.
And now we're fading in.
And this
now.
what? No, what? Okay, wait, we have to cut that. You just never mind. Okay, so
no, you don't understand the joke, Shaun. This is all in the podcast.
This is all. Yeah, but we can't. But we've already faded in. Welcome to the podcast. The date is the 30th of December, 2025. And the title of today's episode is...
Good and Evil.
No, it's a question. It's got to be a question, right? What does it mean to do good?
Good and evil?
Oh, okay. You could put a question mark.
Yeah, I see. Good and evil question mark?
Okay, and the title of today's episode is What Does It Mean to Do Good? So, that's a pretty deep question. It's a question that I think a lot of our topics are going to touch on, so we're going to get this out of the way. We're only 3 episodes in, so yeah, I think if we have a strict definition of good and evil for the podcast, it will be beneficial to our debates and discussions going forward. Thoughts, Gabe?
Yes, definitely. I think this is something that we have to use it anyways, so we might as well get a better understanding of where we stand.
When you say good,
what we think it is.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by good?
Hold on, can we get a strict definition?
Yeah. All right, Gabe, what's your strict definition of good? Or a good act, if you will.
Of good?
Yeah.
Define a good. Okay, so the thing is, I've done a funny thing here. Because like I said in the last episode, like I'm in a season of like challenging my faith. So in the spirit of that, I have written like one set from a religious point of view and one set from a non-religious point of view.
Okay.
Just because I'm exploring both avenues, right?
Okay.
So, how do we want to do this? Should I do both religious, good and evil, and then both non-religious, good, or just?
I'll open up with my
first?
Good and evil. No, I'll open up with my good.
No. Let's do all the good and then all the evil.
Okay, so I do my good, you do your religious good, and then you do your secular good. Is that the word for non-religious? Yeah. Okay, so
it is
because mine's secular. It's not strictly that, but it's definitely not religious. So we'll do a little sandwich, a little religious sandwich, and then do this
little religious Oreo.
That's right, an Oreo, if you will. No free advertisement, and we'll just move that same system into evil. Okay, so I'll open up with my definition.
What was the original Oreo cookie called? It was like Clorox or something.
I mean, is Oreo dumb?
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I actually don't. This is good trivia. I'm gonna pull this up. Oreo OG name.
Hydrox.
That sounds familiar. Why'd they switch it to Oreo?
Oreo? No, it was Oreo was its own thing.
Oh, this is like a Heathcliff Garfield situation.
Wait, what?
So Heathcliff was the first comic strip with an orange cat, and then Garfield came out after, but Garfield was more popular, so now everybody thinks that Heathcliff is a ripoff Garfield, but really Garfield is a ripoff Heathcliff.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. That's gotta hurt.
Yeah. Have you ever read a Heathcliff comic?
No, I haven't heard that before.
You've never even heard of Heathcliff? Yeah, it is unreal, dude. There's nothing like Garfield other than he's a little orange cat. It's very surreal, and I recommend it. You pull up some Heathcliff after this.
I will.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, to get the bottom cookie down on this religious Oreo of definitions, I will define good. So my definition of good includes the word pleasure. So I will also have to define the word pleasure. So we'll
Okay,
start
should we
off.
just do pleasure first?
I'm
then?
gonna open up with my pleasure. So no, we'll open up with good because the pleasure is gonna lead to a longer discussion. Okay. Define good. A good act. I'm gonna define a good act, okay? Because that's easier. A good act is any act that results in a net increase in pleasure in society by the end of 5 years following the act. Okay? So I just picked 5 years as an arbitrary number. We can get into that after. So do you have any questions about the different? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was just going to say like 5 years. We can just think about this. Sorry to bring this back to math, but like...
Oh, please. This makes it easier.
Think of like the derivative of the pleasure, and it has to be an increase, right? It has to be a positive derivative.
That's right.
Okay, yeah. So 5 years is just like a way of saying that, basically.
Okay, yeah. So if the good act results in some sort of curve as pleasure, then what point is this derivative intersecting with?
Wait, I see what you're saying. So hold on. The act can
I like how we're supposed to
negative derivative. It can't have a negative derivative as long as the secant line is positive.
What is the secant line?
You don't know what, bro? It's like when you have 2 points on a curve and you draw a straight line from those 2 points.
Yeah, good point. Oh,
so like that's
yes,
like the
exactly,
average,
exactly.
Right?
I agree. Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah. So yeah, okay.
So it can go down a little as long as it goes back up.
Correct, precisely. And
cool,
I'm giving it by the end of 5 years just because I feel like 10 years is too long. Where if people look back if we could look at the dropping of the bomb on Japan to end World War II as like a very bad thing because that resulted in a lot of suffering, but it could have resulted in it did result ultimately in a net increase in suffering, right? Now, was that over 5 years? Probably not. It was probably more like 10 years. So I think that would be considered a bad thing because it took way too long for us to reap the rewards of that. Do you agree? Okay, but that also, sorry, before you answer that also was just the second worst thing because a worse thing would be letting the war go on and let more suffering occur. So really, it was a bad thing, but it was just less bad than the other thing. Thoughts?
Well, here's the thing. Like, from a religious worldview, it's bad. From a non-religious worldview, it's not bad.
It's not bad, but is it good?
It's neither bad or good.
It's a neutral act?
It's neither.
That's crazy.
It's just a thing. You just did a thing.
You just did a thing?
Congratulations. You just did a thing.
And its goodness or evilness is irrelevant.
No, because I don't want to open this can of worms. I'm not going to open this can of worms yet. We'll get deeper into the podcast, and this can of worms will be opened for sure.
Okay, shelf that worm can.
But no, I don't think. We're kicking the can.
We're kicking the worm can down the pod.
Okay. All right. That's a decent definition.
Okay.
I like that. Do you want to define pleasure just before we keep going?
Yeah. So if you don't have any questions about pleasure, that's good. But I will just get what that means. So like, I feel like when you boil anything down to like its most basic definitions, you do just get down to the feeling of I'm feeling good right now and I'm feeling bad. And those things are hard to quantify because everybody can just kind of understand what it means to feel good or to feel bad. So I said that define pleasure is any feeling a person wants to experience. So it's just what do you want to feel right now? Because a lot of people just want to feel good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I basically said the same thing.
Okay, nice.
Like if you read mine there, I said the release and experience of encouraging chemicals in the brain.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like
a little more scientific.
It's broad because I don't really know like brain chemistry, but like that's kind of what
experience of encouraging. Okay, so you just kind of use the word encouraging.
Yeah, I feel like there's different happy chemicals in your brain, right? So like,
oh, absolutely.
I don't know, encouraging chemicals. And there's different kinds of like pleasure. There's like in the moment pleasure. There's like fulfillment pleasure.
Right, exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Okay, let's get that religious good definition.
Okay, religious good. Okay. So a good act from a religious worldview is any action which is in accordance with God's will. So that's pretty broad, but so for an example, to determine what is in accordance with God's will and what is not, you have to like use God's example. So like Jesus as an example.
Like what would Jesus do?
Yeah. You can use God's word and use prayer to determine what is in accordance and what is not. And that's how you kind of figure it out.
See, religion just does make things a little bit easier. That does just kind of make it easier. That makes sense. Like if that's what we're looking at it, if we agree that God's real, then yeah, problem solved.
Yeah.
But, people could pray and then misinterpret things, and then people disagree about what God's will is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big problem.
Yeah. Okay, and then what's your secular definition of a good act?
Okay. Secular definition. Any action which makes the happy chemicals flow in your head.
Okay.
And like you said, I said whichever makes the highest flow on average, right? So, with a little leeway as to like looking into the future, because we are we have a sense of time, so we can think about the future and plan for that.
That which makes the highest flow on average. Okay, so you said any action that makes the happy chemicals flow in your head. So who's you?
Yeah. Well, I am the only thing which I know exists.
Right. So a good act.
So why does anything else really matter? That's where that came from.
Yeah, that makes sense. So whoever is doing the good act, whatever makes them happy would be a good act.
Yeah, so there's not really any good or evil, right? Because then it's just whatever, like good and evil is just subjective to the person.
Exactly.
So that's not really good and evil. That's just like preferences.
I feel like if we were to take this, because the way I try to make definitions is in a way that will make get people to agree with it. This definition, nobody agrees with this, bro. I don't think anybody thinks that anything that makes you individually happy is a good thing.
I know at least two people who literally, they said this to me, and then I was like, huh.
Oh, okay.
I was like, actually, if you don't think God exists, actually, this makes quite a lot of sense.
This does. If people have told you this, then that's okay. I agree, because in this
what,
in this
you think
situation,
they're crazy?
Yeah, they are crazy, because if they go if they're hungry and they go to McDonald's, they order a McDonald's, no free promo. If they go to a restaurant and then they get food that that is more expensive than it should be, but it makes them happier, then that's a good thing. Nobody would say that they're a good person for doing that. I don't think. I mean, clearly they would, because two people. So that's a baffling definition. I've never heard anybody say that.
But why would that not be good?
Because I feel like a lot of people define doing good as helping others. When people say, "How you doing?" Someone says, I don't know if you ever heard this. It's kind of an idiom. How you doing? And then somebody says good. They say, actually, Superman does good. You're doing well. It's a little bit of the difference between good and well. Because to do good is not the same as to do well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but why does that matter?
Look, it inherently doesn't.
The definition of.
I just feel like a lot of people, or my experience has been that people define doing good as nobody would say that a day trader is doing good more than a firefighter. A firefighter, most people are going to agree that a firefighter does good when they save someone out of a burning building, because it's they're helping somebody else. But a day trader is very indirectly helping other people and mostly just serving themselves.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that people think that is good.
Okay.
I'm just saying that there's no logical reason. If you're going to decide that good is what you decide is good, then the best good is that which I wrote down. It's whatever you want in the moment, or over whatever's gonna make you feel the best. Because there's no point in helping other people if good is what you want. Like, that's not really gonna help you. So
Right. So, like, would you say a good person? Okay, by this definition, a good person would be. Okay, you don't agree with this definition, right?
no.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't. Is this really the? Okay, I'm not trying to attack your definition here. This isn't going to sound like an attack, though. So just brace yourself.
Okay, I'm ready.
Is this the best you could come up with from a non-God perspective?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know what would be better.
Mine.
I feel like they're all on level standing.
What about my definition?
But yours doesn't, like, from a non-religious standpoint, they're all equal, so it doesn't matter.
What are all equal?
All definitions of good, because
okay,
there is no one definition, so none can be better than the other.
That's
none
a good
can be
point.
more good than the other.
That's a good point.
Because they're all good in their own right.
Okay, yeah. So if we're just defining things and we're like trying to define morality, because I know we're going to get into it, from a non-religious perspective, I would say that if we don't have God's will to fall back on, we would have to say that what is moral is what is decided by like the majority of people, just a democratic system. So like if most people agree that killing is wrong and should be illegal, then killing is then immoral. So if you take this definition, your non-religious definition, to the masses, I don't think most people would agree to it. I think most people would agree to mine. I mean, okay, yeah, I really don't know because we haven't run the experiment, but we'd have to ask people, the majority of people, what good is, and then whatever the majority says would then be decided as good.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so this is maybe I'm not sure if I have the wrong definition or if you have the wrong definition, but we definitely have different definitions of what morality actually is.
Oh yeah, okay.
Because what you just described to me, that sounds like ethics.
Okay.
That doesn't sound like morality.
That's probably what I was thinking.
Ethics is what is like decided by society. Morality is what is good and what is evil.
Oh my God. Okay. Okay. So when you say what is good and what is evil, you mean by the will of God. So morality is what God decides to be ethical.
In a sense, yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, okay. It's all right.
Well, hold on. Well, no, hold on. It's not necessarily what God decides. It's what is objectively good and what is objectively evil.
Okay, but objective is like observable and measurable and quantitative. And when we're talking about good and evil, none of that applies.
Yeah. It doesn't. Well, here's the thing. It doesn't apply if you're giving it. If you decide what is good and evil, it doesn't really apply.
Right. So God's will is then objective, right? We just have to agree that whatever God says is correct. And I'm comfortable to agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So then ethics is what society decides is good and evil. And then morality is what God decides is good and evil. Correct?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay, and then what God decides would then okay, so ethics could be considered immoral.
From my understanding, yes.
Okay.
Should we Google this?
No, because we don't need Google, man. If we agree to what our definitions are, then we can have a thorough conversation. And then if we bring this to the public and then they disagree with us, we have to have new definitions and have new, right? Because look, who says
I just don't want to build on a false definition.
Okay, but then
like
Britannia,
if we're using
yeah.
If we're using ethical in the completely wrong way, then I just don't want to build on that.
All right, you can go ahead and Google it, but I don't care what Britannica says because I don't know who wrote Britannica.
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about Britannica, but people, you know.
Okay, but then we're people.
But we're not very well versed.
Fair enough. Okay, so we're gonna get a quick definition.
Okay, maybe I had the wrong idea. Okay, so I think I did have the wrong idea actually. So ethics is the community's beliefs, the community's right and wrong.
Yeah.
Moral, that's the internal right and wrong.
Yes, individual. So what I think is good and evil would be my morals, and then what everybody thinks is would be their ethics.
Yeah.
Okay, so then God would have nothing to do with any of it.
Well,
he would just influence your internal ones. He could influence your morals.
Yeah.
If you're a religious person, you subscribe to that belief. Okay, so that's it was kind of close to what we had. It's not like everybody has their own morals, and then people who subscribe to the belief of God would have, I don't know, godly morals. Okay, what's your so those are our definitions of good and evil, or good, and then yours has nothing to do. Yeah, okay, yours is just the experience. Okay, so yeah, you don't use the word pleasure, but you use the chemicals. Okay, so let's do evil. What do you say about evil? McKim's evil definition. Okay. Yeah, it's just the opposite. Any act that results in a net...
It's just the antithesis.
...decrease or increase of suffering in society by the end of 5 years following the act.
Yeah, and similarly, from a religious point of view, any action which is not in accordance with God's will. From a non-religious point of view, any action which makes unhappy chemicals flow in your brain.
Got it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, pretty simple.
Okay.
I figured that was pretty obvious. Good and evil are very obviously like the exact opposite of each other.
Good point.
In the concept.
All right. And then suffering is the antithesis of pleasure, just to get that out of the way.
Okay, wait, hold on. I wrote for my for my definition of pleasure, it was released and experience of encouraging chemicals in the brain.
Okay.
Do you think suffering is the opposite is the opposite of that in like the words? The release and experience of discouraging chemicals in the brain? Because I wrote discouraging and painful, which I feel like is a better description.
Could be and or painful.
But just painful chemicals, that's not necessarily suffering. If you stub your toe, is that really
Absolutely. That's quintessential suffering. Can you also be
suffering without feeling painful? You could. I feel like you can also suffer without feeling painful chemicals.
Exactly. You can be suffering without feeling physical pain. It's like depression.
But it's weird that you don't need I guess what is the opposite of painful? We don't have a word for that in the English language, do we?
Pleasurable.
Not that I know.
It's pleasurable, really? Wouldn't it be?
Oh, okay, I guess. And I can't use pleasurable in the definition of pleasure. That doesn't really make any sense.
No. Pleasurable.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so let's get into is there good and evil?
I think so.
Okay, so is there good and evil? So do good and evil exist? So we've only defined what an act, a good act or an evil act is. So really what we're asking is, do good acts and do evil acts exist? Right?
Sure.
Why do you hesitate?
I don't know, because I wrote a definition from a non-religious point of view, but neither of those are really, they aren't identifying definitions, if that makes sense. Sure, I wrote a definition for them, but that's just everything and anything. It doesn't really follow a rule.
What? What rule are you talking about? What rule are you looking for?
It's just whatever makes your happy chemicals flow. So that's that could be anything, and it doesn't really follow. It doesn't follow a rule that we have a way of writing down, other than that, which doesn't say anything about what is good and wrong.
I'm completely lost. You take point. You take point on this segment, and I'll see if I can follow along.
So I don't know, man. Just keep going. Whatever.
Okay, so the question here written is there good and evil? Which doesn't really make sense to me because we haven't defined the words good and evil on their own. Because it's kind of hard to define an adjective, I think. So we've only defined good and evil acts. So I think we should change the question to, do good acts and evil acts exist? Do you agree?
Right. Yes.
Okay, so Yes, you think that good and evil acts exist. Why?
Okay, can we talk about morality? Because I really think this has so much to do with morality.
Yeah, okay. Do we have a question about morality, or we just that's just a segment?
No,
Okay,
we
yeah.
should have. We should
That's
have.
fine. We're making it now.
Okay. Um, yeah, I've asked people. Okay, so I wrote this all with. Okay, so I'm gonna have to change the word from morality to, do you? No, okay. So I think the question which you originally asked, is there good and evil? That's the question I really want to answer, because I think
Okay.
that's what I before 5 minutes ago, that's what I thought morality, the definition of morality was, like objective good and evil.
Okay, right.
Um, do you think there is objective good and evil?
Okay, good question. Very good question. And I think no.
Okay, interesting.
And
So
I
you so
kind of,
you could
yeah.
okay. So actually, yeah. So okay. So then you don't think there's anything good or bad. So the good acts and bad act definition that you gave are just like something that you feel that you like.
Yes, and I think most people would agree with. That's what I was going at. I didn't really think about why I was. That's a good way to look at it, because I really didn't think about why I was defining it that way. But I think now the reason I defined it that way is because I think a lot of people would agree with that.
Why does that matter?
Because yeah, when we take a look at if we just say that there is no God, what would we have to base the rules of society on? And I think we would just have to assign that, because that would be like the duty of God. But if we have no God, that responsibility would fall to the majority of people. So now the majority of people sort of becomes God, in that they decide what goes, the rules. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but where do they decide?
Just on their individual
Like what?
morals.
Yeah, but where does that come from?
Um, where does that come from? Their individual life experiences, I guess. And some would be religious and some wouldn't be. Oh,
Right, but like the non-religious people, how do they decide what is good and evil if it depends on what other people think? Like, let's just
yeah.
think for a second that there are no religious people in your tribe, for
Yes.
example. How do you have morals?
Yeah, they just kind of decide. I guess
If
it's just, that's a good question. I don't know where it comes from, because I don't consider myself religious, but I do think that there's good and evil. Like, I do think that someone can do good, but that's just based on what everybody else thinks. But then where did it all originate? I don't know. I guess it all did start religious, and then people just kind of forgot where it came from. And so now it's just based on what other people think, but originally it was, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
yeah,
but okay,
yeah.
but here's the problem I have with that is like then anything is good and anything is evil. So so good and evil are just a preference, which isn't good and evil. That's not what good and evil are.
Well, yeah, I'm comfortable with it being a preference. Like, that makes sense to me. I understand how that's uncomfortable from like a religious perspective, but like from a non-religious perspective, like, yeah, that's, what else would it be? Because objective implies that there's some sort of scientific test we can do to determine whether it is or is not true. There just isn't.
So you don't think there's good and evil
I do. Okay, yeah.
because
Here's the thing: we've defined good and
that
evil.
is what good.
Wait, we haven't agreed on a definition. I guess we should agree on a
I guess
definition.
not,
Yeah, I would define
because
good.
I think
Yeah.
I think good and evil like are good and evil are like, it's so hard to like to provide a definition that doesn't include good or evil.
Yeah, it's
You know
very.
what I mean? They're like
Yes.
such basic concepts that there's no language to even like describe them.
That's the road or the wall I ran into when I was trying to define pleasure. I'm like, it's just something that everybody knows. That's just like the most basic thing that everybody can commonly experience, is feeling good and feeling bad.
It's like sight. Like, how do you describe sight to a blind person?
Yeah,
It's like
totally.
you can't use words to describe that, because you would never have to describe that to a person. And same with
Okay.
good and evil. Like, it's something that we all feel inside, but we can't. You wouldn't have to explain that to someone, so there's no language to communicate that.
So if we're going to go on and have this discussion about good and evil, we have to agree on our definition. So with this discussion,
Yes.
do you want to come at it from a religious perspective or not? Like, what is your goal here?
Both. And whichever
Okay,
one
we
comes
can't
out
do
on top.
both.
What do you mean?
Because if we agree, okay, but your definition of good depends on a god. So if we agree that the definition of good depends on a god, then we're looking at it from a religious perspective, and then that's the end of it. But if we agree that it doesn't, then it would, like, we have to hold on.
No,
Hold on.
but like we
Yeah.
we can agree on one definition if you are religious and one definition if you are not. And then going
No,
forward,
because a non-religious
not?
because if we look at it from, if one person believes in a religious good and evil, then the other person doesn't believe in good and evil, and so there's no discussion to be had because this other person is just talking about something they don't believe in, right?
Well, hold on. Well, then what did you think this whole episode was gonna be, bro?
I thought we were going to talk about good and evil from a non-religious perspective, because from a religious perspective, problem solved. Like, there's nothing to talk about. But if you have it from a non-religious perspective, now there's a discussion to be had because there's no rule book. Like, the best part about religion is that there's just a rule book and all the answers are in there, right?
That's a great way to describe it. I've never heard someone say that.
That's
before.
why that's the most comforting thing about religion to me, is like, oh, well, I have a divine purpose. It gets given to me in the book. There's a bunch of things I can and can't do, and then it's problem solved. But if you take that book away, it's like, oh, I got to figure this all out on my own. Then that's like difficult. Then there's discussions to be had.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we can discuss either way. Because, like, can a person be, well, I don't know.
Okay, so why this is just going to become a discussion about religion, because I was thinking about this after our last pod. You're in a place of like uncertainty about religion, is that right?
You could say that.
Okay, so there are appealing aspects to believing in God and not believing in God, but I've decided that I think there's more, that not believing in God is more appealing. So to you, do you see it as equally equal pros and cons, or are you leaning to one side or the other?
I'm still leaning towards a religious side.
Okay.
But, like, the whole thing with being religious, at least, okay, like, there's a thing, like, if you grow up in a religious household, sure, you're religious, but to be, I don't want to say, like, to be religious
You're
or to be, like,
gatekeeping
a
it.
Christian, you have to challenge your faith. But to be, like, that's a good thing that you always want to do, is challenge your faith.
Right.
So, and this is, like, the first time that I'm, like, seriously, like, digging deep into
Okay.
it.
So, like,
but I've had enough experiences, religious experiences, and I've, like, read enough of the Bible to, like, see enough truth on that side that it's like a seesaw. It could go either way.
oh, okay. So I would argue, like, one of the main points against believing in God is, like, there's just really no concrete evidence to support it. Like, there's nothing I can point to that goes like, well, this is definitely the truth. And there is, like, so if there's no evidence to support it, I'm not saying it's not there, but there's nothing to say that it is there. So I'm going to lean towards it's not, because, I don't know why.
Because
why
why
does
would
that make
you-
more sense?
Well, because why would you believe something just randomly said?
Exactly. Yeah. There's nothing to support
Why,
its existence.
like, if I
so I'm
said
just-
there were pink elephants on Pluto, like, you can't prove that's not true, but what's to say that it, like, you don't just believe something that someone just says out of nowhere.
Exactly. So what would be
Yeah.
your counter to that? Have you you've had religious experiences that have, like, given you evidence to support the existence of God?
Yes.
You don't have to get
One
into it. It's
is
too
like-
personal.
One is, like, the impact on humanity is, like, huge.
Right.
And that may not be like a, what's it called? Well, first of all, I want to preface this. This may not be a popular opinion, but
Go ahead and cancel me.
I believe I believe the point is not for God to, like, there should not be 100% provable proof that God exists. That's not the point, because if he did that, he might as well just come down and say hello, and he's not doing that.
Okay.
So I think that's not the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
I think that part of the beauty of being religious is the faith part.
Just
I think
trusting
that
something. Yeah.
Trusting something based on proof, but also based on a relationship. That's a big difference between like Christianity, and like especially certain denominations of Christianity versus other religions.
Mm-hmm.
Is like you don't usually have like a one-on-one relationship with your God, but that's a big part of Christianity, and I think faith is a big part of that, where you can strengthen your relationship with faith. It's like a trust fall.
Like, what's beautiful about just trusting something based on no evidence?
Well, it's first of all, it's not no evidence.
Oh, okay.
Second of all, it's like if I like program a software to do something and then it does that, it's not like a momentous occasion. It's just like, okay,
yeah,
it was always going to do that. When I press the K button, it's always going to put a K on the screen.
Okay, I'm following.
When I move my mouse, the mouse is always going to move. But when you allow the computer to have free will, and all of a sudden it's like doing its own thing, and not only that, not only is it, but like then it becomes your friend. Then it's all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, there's something here. There's life here.
Okay.
Are you picking up what I'm putting down?
This is, I don't know why, and I like this answer a lot. This makes a lot of sense to me. And this is giving me like the feeling of that is a beautiful thing, that you let the computer do its own thing and then it becomes your friend because it wants to. But like, why is that? Why is that beautiful?
Okay. Why is anything beautiful, bro? Okay,
Yeah.
there are limits to our human understanding. You have to agree with me there.
Absolutely.
And like, there are some things that we will just not be able to understand.
Okay.
And I feel like that is one of those things. Like I wouldn't even know where to start on like how love works, or
yes,
like it just doesn't make sense to me.
So this is where religion like kind of falls apart for me, is like it's designed to answer questions from a certain perspective. Do you agree?
It's not designed.
I guess. Okay. Really, yeah. Because that's coming out of perspective. That's like, that question is posed from a perspective of like, it's not real and it was invented by a person. But like,
yeah.
So that's from the perspective that it's not real and it was invented by a person. It feels like it was designed to answer questions like, what happens after we die? What are we supposed to do here? Where do we come from? Where do we go? And then you get it.
Got Night Joe.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. Thank you. And then once you ask a question like, why does God allow suffering to exist? I asked this to my coworker once, who just said, yeah, there's just some things we can't know. It's like, okay, well then what are we doing then? If you're not going to answer all the questions, why bother? What do you say that? Why does God allow suffering to exist? Or why do you think?
Wait, are you asking me that? Was that just an example, or were you asking me that?
I mean, it was asking you that, but I feel like you had some more stuff to say about the other stuff I said before. So you go ahead. You take whatever road you want.
I did. I was going to say something and now I forget. Oh yeah. So that's another thing where like it doesn't, like one reason why I want to believe it is because if it was just written by someone and it was all fake, like it wouldn't be helpful to them. Like they wouldn't have gained anything from it. There would be no reason to lie about like the things that they wrote about.
Well, there would have been at the time, no?
No, so like, okay, so the Old Testament is like so old that I don't know that we don't know everything about it.
Yeah.
But the New Testament is like, we know so much about that.
Okay.
And like, we know for a fact that like we know the people who wrote it, and we know about the other people who wrote it because like other people who were not religious and like in non-religious texts, they wrote about these people and what they were doing and the things they were saying. So like we very much know that the New Testament was we know who wrote it. It wasn't just like written by some nameless person. You know what I'm saying?
To benefit themselves. Like we know the people who wrote it, and we know that they were people doing this because they believed it and not because it would benefit them.
Yes, and the interesting thing is they didn't write it and then made everyone believe in it like a cult, and then they got rich and famous. Nah, they like died terrible deaths. Like their lives sucked.
Okay.
So like it doesn't make sense that they were just writing something for fun, you know, or like trying to get rich or like trying to make a cult.
Okay.
That angle doesn't really make sense to me.
Okay, but we don't know that for sure because that is all just stuff that's like repeat. This is like not even secondhand information. This is millionth hand information, right? Because we don't have pictures, right?
Well, we don't have pictures, but we have written words. Like what else?
Yeah, I mean,
Like, what do you mean?
I can agree, but it's just written. Like anybody could have wrote anything. I agree that a bunch of different people wrote the same thing, and that gives it some credit, but it's still not 100% proof that these people were telling the truth of what actually happened. You agree?
I'm not sure. Say that again in a different way.
Okay, so what you're saying is I can do this. What you're saying,
I can do this.
what I interpret you to be saying is that we can, with like certainty or with like 90% certainty, know that what was written in the New Testament was the truth because it was not only written in the New Testament, but other texts by other people who would have no reason to lie, right?
No.
Okay.
What I'm saying is we know who wrote it and we know when they wrote it. And there's no logical reason that I could come to find, at least, or that I've heard other people say. There's no logical reason to suggest that they lied about that. Because, yeah, there's no logical reason to suggest that they lied.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'm on the same page then. Okay, so
yeah,
whoever wrote the New Testament was doing it because they believed it, because they would have no reason to lie. So we know that whatever was written in the New Testament was, who wrote it? Like Mark and John and them?
Mark and John and them, yeah, basically.
Yeah. I don't know. I could list more. Peter is one of them, right?
Simon Peter.
I
don't know why I went into like low-key Trump mode there. My bad.
It's okay.
I'll dial that one back.
Okay. Where are we going with this? I can't remember.
Where were we going?
I think why do you prefer
morality?
To look at good and evil, or why do you prefer to be religious, or why are you leaning that way? Like for me, there's like no debate because like the pros of non-religiousness outweigh the cons.
I also like part of it for me. It's a combination of like, lately at least, it's been a combination of the New Testament. They definitely weren't lying about it, and you have to, at least from my point of view, you have to accept the New Testament, and if you accept the New Testament, then you must accept the Old Testament, and you also must accept that Jesus existed.
Right.
But then that's not like 100% provable. That's like 98% provable. So then you're like, okay, maybe is there some other evidence that could like support this? And then it's like, basically, I'm an intelligent design person. I don't think this world was just a flip of the coin. That doesn't make sense to me.
Why not?
Okay, but like, and the other thing is like science has no like zero, science has zero explanation of where the universe came from. Religion has like, it has a definition.
That's true. I'll give you that.
That's the thing.
Yeah, so it's just answering questions. It comforts you because you have answers to questions, right? Is that a misinterpretation?
I mean, I don't believe it because it comforts me.
Oh, got you. Okay, you believe it
and it and
because.
it frequently does not cover me.
Oh, oh, interesting. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so you believe in religion because the evidence supports it, is what you're saying.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, I haven't looked into the evidence. I can't push back against that, so I'll take your word for it. We can look at it from that perspective. Okay, then let's switch the conversation up to this. Does good and evil exist from a religious perspective? Absolutely, because we have God and we have God's will. So why do you think people seek to find people like me? Why do you think people like me believe that they're no, I guess I don't though. Huh. Okay, so what do you think this
You don't
discussion
believe there's good and evil?
what?
You don't believe there's good and evil?
No, I kind of don't. Like my definition is very subjective. And so like yes, good and evil is whatever we decide it to be. So if the question is there good and evil, the answer is like yes, but it's whatever we decide it to be because by definition is very much just there is no God, but there is a majority of people. And so you pose a very interesting question earlier, which is where does my sense of good and evil come from? And I would just say society around me. But also, yeah, so I don't know. What do you want to talk about now?
I was gonna ask you then, where do you think your like feeling of guilt comes from? But if you say society, then it's like that had to start somewhere. That's the thing.
Did you just cut out? You still there?
I'm back.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
back. Did you hear me?
I heard, where's your feeling of guilt come from if it's society, and then you stopped.
Yeah, like if it's society, where did society get it from? Like that's like a circle. It has to, the plane has to land somewhere, you know?
Okay. So I think if we took a bunch of people and gave them no religion, this is definitely a thought experiment people had before. What do we think about those uncontacted tribes they always try to deliver Bibles to? Like, do they have a sense of good and evil? Do we know?
I would assume they do.
Okay, and where do you think that comes
I
from?
mean,
Just like, yeah.
I've never met people. I've never met like an uncontacted tribe.
Okay.
But I would assume they do, just because like even babies before they're able to talk have like a sense of good and evil.
Because
Right?
God beams it into their brains.
You're cutting out.
Oh, sorry. Is it because God beams it into their brains? Beams the sense of good and evil into their brains? Like people are just born with that because God wills it so?
You're a robot, bro.
What? I didn't change anything. I'm sitting in the same spot.
This is fantastic.
I'm gonna disconnect and reconnect.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. Okay. So sorry for the problem. Future Gabriel here. So we have Wi-Fi issues on the day that we were recording this. We were doing it over a call, so that meant that Shaun disconnected from the call. I couldn't hear him, so we re-recorded the last half of the podcast on another day, which is okay. But unfortunately, Shaun messed up something when he was recording, so I was audible in my recording and also his recording. So if the audio quality is a little bit off for the last 20 or so minutes of this podcast, I'm very sorry about that. I did my best to fix it, but I'm only as good as I am, and I'm trying to get better. Anyways, here's the rest of the episode. Alrighty. Well, sorry about that, guys. Welcome back. Unfortunately, we had some technical difficulties, but we're back. Yeah, internet in a snowstorm sometimes isn't the best, but it's all right. So, when we left off, I believe Shaun was talking about whether or not uncontacted tribes and sort of severed societies, whether they had a sense of good and evil. And I said, in my opinion, I think they do. I'm not read up on the science right now, but I believe that babies from a very young age already have a sense of good and evil. So I don't know why that would apply to babies in modern society, but not in uncontacted tribes.
For sure. And so we landed on the religious definition, right? That good is God's will. And so these people are enacting God's will, like in uncontacted tribes, they have a sense of what God's will is, and they are or are not doing it, just from some sort of divine intervention, right?
They're doing it through some. I mean, I would say it's ingrained in like our physiology even, because like there's a brain mechanism for feeling guilt, isn't there?
Yes, for sure. Well, I think.
I would assume so. I feel like because like we said, I feel like all of our feelings are due to like chemicals in our brain. So
Yeah.
I would assume that guilt is also like a combination. So, and I would assume that they also feel guilt, and so I would say that that is given to them through their physiology. And if you believe in God, then you believe that God created that physiology. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
guess that makes sense. Yeah, okay, so that's to answer the question, can a person be good or evil? And the answer would then be yes, because I guess to be evil would be to ignore that guilty feeling and just continue with whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Actually, that raises a good question. If you have an anomaly, if you are an anomaly and you don't feel guilt, is it still evil? Actually, yeah. I'll ask you, do you think it's still evil if you can't feel guilt and you don't know what's good and evil? Is it still evil to do things that everyone else would say is evil?
Um yeah, that's a good question because if to do good is to, what was the word you used? Is it enact God's will or
I might have said,
any
hold
action
on, let
which
me
is
see
not,
if I
oh,
still.
to, okay, so to do something good is to act with accordance with God's will,
Yeah, act in agreement.
in agreement with God's will. So if you don't know what God's will is, it would be impossible, or no, you could act in accordance with God's will coincidentally, and so that would be good. But yeah, so you could still do evil. It doesn't matter whether you know what you're doing or not. As long as you're doing what God wants you to do, you'd be doing good. As
Right.
long as, yeah. If that's the difference,
I'd
yeah,
say I agree. Because the whole point of God's of good and evil being God's will is then that it's objective, right? There's nothing can change God's will. So then it doesn't flip flop.
yeah. So God would exist within everybody's brains in some way as that guilty feeling. That's like when you feel guilty, that's like God's presence in your brain. You agree?
Uh yeah, I mean I guess it depends exactly what you're saying about that. I mean,
Okay. Well,
if
because my follow up question was going to be, if people are unable to feel guilt, like they're missing that sort of part of their brain, why would God do that? Is that him like taking away your free will in some way?
that's a good question. You know, I'm not sure I have an answer for that.
For
I
sure.
mean, I think there I am of the opinion that if God does exist, then there is some responsibility for people to read the Bible,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think you and I both agree that whether you believe or you don't believe, it's important that you figure that out, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
kind of
Definitely.
like I've met people that just run away from the whole notion of religion, and it's like that's a really bad way to look at things because if it if it is true, it's there to kind of help you, right?
Hmm.
And if it's not true, then what is there to be afraid about?
For sure.
But what was I saying again? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I think there is some responsibility if God does exist to read the word of God and that will help you discover what is good and evil, like what good and evil is. Um, I also wrote, I can't remember if I put it in the doc or not, but I also wrote on my own little snippet that we can use God's word and God's example in Jesus to determine what is good and wrong, what is right and wrong in God's eyes.
For sure. Yeah, that's where I feel like this podcast, if we continue with this definition of good, which I would be fine with, but I would make me have to do way more research, so I don't really want to do that, is if we define good as to act within accordance with God's will, then this whole podcast is just going to be interpreting God's will, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and that is kind of the religious life is
I guess you're
is
right.
kind of figuring that out.
Yeah,
But like I said, I think we can look at it from two different worldviews.
for sure.
At least in most cases, like you said, in some cases it would make for boring conversation. But
Yeah, if we just agree on God's
think-
will the whole time, then there's no discussion to be had. But if we have different interpretations, then that's definitely interesting discussion.
oh yeah, for sure. So then I guess we can move on to the next point if you're done.
Yeah, I got nothing else on that.
So then, if a good act induces pleasure, does that change the goodness of the act? If an evil act induces suffering, which we're interpreting as the opposite of pleasure, does that change the evilness of the act?
Pretty easy no in my book.
Yeah, in either way.
Yeah, because
in
if it's God's will, then it doesn't matter what the actor feels because God's will is objective and it doesn't matter, like, the feelings, the internal feelings of the person doesn't matter, right?
right.
They would have no effect.
I would say that from a religious standpoint. Would you still say that from your definition?
Yes, I would think that from my definition, it would result. So, like, if someone does something that benefits other people, but it like hurts them more than benefits the other people, then I would consider that like evil because that's like self-destructive and ultimately not very good for society. So, like, well, I'd say good for society. Yeah, like it results in, like, if one guy kills himself to, like, I don't know, get some other people one more degree of air conditioning, then that's not a good act, right? Because he didn't, that's too much. He did too much and it resulted in
The scales are tipped in bad.
yeah, that resulted in more suffering than it did pleasure because yeah, they're a little bit cooler, but this guy's now, well, I guess dead isn't, we have to define whether or not suffering, and if you're dead, can you feel suffering? Let's just say he's experiencing great pain to result in this air conditioning. So yeah, I would think that this would change because it would change the the scales. You're right. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So you do think that would affect the goodness?
Yeah, because a good act would have to result in a net increase in pleasure. So if a good act induces pleasure, does it change the goodness of the act? I guess it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't change the goodness of the act. It would result in the goodness of the act. Because if it didn't induce pleasure, then it wouldn't be good at all. By my definition.
Right. That's a good point. The wording is important here.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks.
But if a good act induces suffering, you're saying that it could still be good.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Which I guess I would agree.
Well,
I would agree.
For example, like if a firefighter rushes into a burning building and saves somebody, hoping that he doesn't die, he could sustain an injury. He's going to suffer for sure when he's in the building. But then if he saves a life, that's definitely a good act because he saved somebody's life and resulted in all the pleasure they will experience for the rest of their life. And then he only suffered for however long it took to save him, right?
Okay, I have a crazy idea, and I'll just preface this by saying I haven't pondered it one bit, so maybe your answer is going to be super simple, but I'm not sure mine is.
Okay.
Is the firefighter still suffering if he has like a savior complex?
Well, yeah, we're gonna have to ask the guy himself. He definitely, he could be getting a thrilling experience. He could be going into that building, loving it, enjoying it. But I imagine most firefighters don't.
It's a good
Is that what
point.
you're saying?
I don't mean like. Well, I guess I do mean that. Never mind. I was gonna say I don't mean like an adrenaline rush. I mean like people who do things that make them seem like the hero just because it makes them feel good.
Yeah.
Do things selfishly. That's what I
Right.
mean.
For sure.
But I guess it would still be selfish even if he was doing it for an adrenaline rush.
Absolutely. It'd be selfish either way. Yeah, hold on. We should have had this first because now we have to get into like the selflessness. Wait, what was our definition of selflessness from last episode? Hold on.
We didn't write it down.
We did write it down. Awesome. That's okay.
Of course we didn't. Perfect. Listeners, I'm sorry.
We're still figuring it out. Dude, this is like a run and gun podcast.
Maybe we have a comment section by now. Comment section, write it down below. You come up with the definition.
Yeah, once we like look back at these and edit these all, we'll have a better idea. We can write down as we're editing important points that we brought up, and then we can have those written down.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, we're gonna have to write a description. I totally forgot about that.
No, we don't.
What do you mean? Are you just gonna upload it with a blank description? That's
could.
ridiculous.
If you don't want to write the description, we don't have to. We don't got a boss to report
like
to.
I don't want to, but I feel like the amount of effort it is for the amount of potential benefit, it's
Yes.
like I really just should.
Good point. Okay, let's move on to do good and evil acts exist? Yes. Would life be more good if good and evil doesn't exist? So you wrote this because there's no way I would have wrote this.
That's crazy. It is a bit of a word salad. Would life be, because I think I initially said would life be better?
Oh,
and
you
you're
did.
Like,
I remember
what's
that.
better? What's better? And I feel like it makes a little more sense, but maybe it doesn't if you say better.
Better makes as little sense.
It sounds better to me.
It does sound better.
I don't know, man.
But it doesn't make any sense because I think when we wrote this, we're like, okay, by now we'll have a definition of good. So this will make sense. But it does, but like, would life be more good? So would life be more in accordance with God's will if good and evil didn't exist? No.
That's a good point. By that definition, no.
Dude, the God's will definition, I like it because it makes everything so much easier until we get into what God's will actually is, and then it's like, oh shit, I don't know.
I would say no, and here's why. At first, when you asked that a minute ago, I was like, what does that even look like? What does a world without good and evil look like? Because I can't even, like, it's hard to fathom what that would be like. And then I thought, oh, it's like my thought experiment from earlier. It's just a computer program.
Yes.
And so, like, again, no, I would say that's not any better, if that makes sense. Intuitively, that doesn't feel better.
Yeah, it's sort of like there's something beautiful about free will, and you lose that once you take away good and evil.
For sure.
Because we wouldn't really have free will, we would just be acting on instinct. Because free will is the ability to choose to act in accordance with God, right?
Oh, okay.
Like, that's what makes it beautiful, is that we could be evil, but we don't because we want to be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd say I'm not entirely sure what free will is at the moment, but
Okay.
that's one of the things that makes it difficult, is because is free will just the choice to follow God?
Yeah.
Because we also have free will to do, in the traditional sense of the word, we also have free will to, like, choose to, walk around or scream at the top of our lungs, like.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I guess so. That could be a definition of free will, but I think the definition of free will is to like animals don't have free will because they just act based on they are little computer programs because they just do exactly what would result in reproduction. But humans can choose to do a bunch of stuff.
But like we can't choose. Well, this is where it gets tricky because we can't choose to, like, for example, end the world and all existence. If we had true free will, we should be able to do anything, right? That's my thought process at
You're
least.
interpreting free will as unlimited power, right?
Yeah, but like they kind of go hand in hand because if you
Oh
have
yeah,
zero power, then you
yeah,
can't have any free will.
yeah. That makes sense.
So I guess that's a good question. Like I said, I don't have a strict definition
Yeah, we gotta
at
get one
this
of
point.
those.
I'm thinking through. We need to do an episode on it.
Free will
But,
Epwood's gonna go nuts. I look forward to that one. All right.
yeah.
We pretty much got would good and evil. Would life be more good if good and evil didn't exist? Oh wait, should we do my interpretation of good? I mean, I feel like we could just destroy
we
my
should.
definition of good at the end of this episode because we're just going to continue with yours anyway. Not yours, but God's.
You sure?
I mean,
Why don't you like yours anymore?
because we can't have
Like-
two. What's the point? We have to agree.
I know. I think that's the beauty of this podcast is that we can have two separate worldviews and we come at different issues from 2 points of view. I think that's the whole point.
Okay. All right. I was trying to like. Yeah, I guess.
If we're just in agreement about everything, then it's not that interesting.
Yeah, no, I don't know what I was thinking because now I'm interpreting what I thought this was going to be. I thought we were going to be talking about stuff and then come to a common consensus and then like just form into one person. Like every episode would be closer and closer to becoming each other. And so yeah, let's not do that.
Yeah, I grow out a beard. You grow your hair out.
That's
longer.
right. Yeah. Okay. So
You chop.
if we continue with
Never
my
mind.
definition, because you absolutely destroyed me last time we recorded because you said, well, what's that based on? Like, fuck, I don't know. That's a good point.
That's
If
the
mine
thing.
would just be based on my individual interpretation and yours is based on not yours, sorry, the one you brought is based on the Bible, and it's like, which is, I don't, no, that is, I feel like that is more legitimate than mine. Like that has more weight, and I keep approaching this like it's a debate, and it's not a debate, right?
No, I don't
Okay.
think it's a debate.
Okay, because I keep trying to win, and I'm not trying to win.
No.
So
I'm not trying to win either. Like I don't think your definition is necessarily a bad definition
Right.
if you don't accept God.
yeah, if you don't accept God, mine's perfectly fine. But if we, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna keep looking at this. Okay, so would life be more good if good and evil didn't exist? By my definition, and my definition of good is any act that results in a net increase in pleasure. So would life be more pleasurable for everyone if good and evil didn't exist? So if
Ooh, okay. So this kind of depends on if you think overall existence has been more pleasurable or more sufferable,
that's a
right?
really
Because if it was more sufferable, then if that never existed, then yeah, it would have been, I guess, a little more pleasurable, right?
Wait, so in this question, it says if good and evil doesn't exist. So let's establish a world where good and evil doesn't exist by my definition. That would be.
Right.
Do you have an idea what that is?
A world where people don't feel anything, I would assume.
Yeah, I guess so. Because good is sort of like not equal to pleasure, but it's dependent on pleasure. So if that didn't exist, then yeah, people would just feel no pleasure or suffering. Do you think animals feel pleasure or suffering?
Not really. Not in the fullest sense.
Not
I
by
feel
our
like
definition.
they feel like and like I phrased it before, like an encouraging and a discouraging, but I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily sure it's like painful for them.
And they
I
can't
could
feel
be wrong.
fulfilled.
No, I definitely don't think animals can feel
A
fulfilled.
dog cannot live a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
What's your default animal in your head? Just
I don't know. Like when you mentioned that, what animals did I think of?
Yeah.
Deer. I don't know
That's
why.
crazy.
I just did.
That's a good one. I always picture dog.
Hey, that's a good animal, bro.
Yeah, good animal, bro. Okay, moving on. So then, yeah, a world where good and evil didn't exist is a world where people are kind of just animals. And would life be more pleasurable? Then no. Dude, this question, no offense, this question's terrible.
Okay. Sorry.
It's okay. But we answered it, so we can move on.
We can.
Actually, we have to define what a good and bad question is. Because why do I think that's terrible? Because it was easy to answer. But in one way, from a certain perspective, that makes a good question. You want a question to be easy to answer, don't you?
Yeah, as
Yeah.
long as because then there's less suffering in trying to answer it, I guess.
Unless you gain pleasure from trying to answer a question, which I do.
Once you're
Answering
a
questions
question
pleasures me.
masochist.
Okay, final question. Um, can good and evil exist without the existence of God, Gabe?
Well, by my definition, no, of course not.
Yes. And then by my definition, yes, because my definition has nothing to do with God. So, pot over, right?
I guess so. I mean, I was just gonna say, I think that's a way worse question than the one before.
No, it's dude, it's well, no, this is a good question because we wouldn't have been able to answer it built on without defining good and evil. The question before could have been answered without any definitions because it depends on its like would life be more good if good and evil didn't exist? It can't be more good if good doesn't exist. So the answer is no every single time regardless of the definition.
That's a good point. That question makes no sense. But like the concept makes sense, doesn't it?
It's
Kind
something
of?
worth thinking about for as long as we thought about it.
Wait, hold on. So does that mean? Wait, hold on. I just had a epiphany.
Okay.
Does that mean that good must always exist?
Oh yeah, it's like
Because
if God can exist, then he does exist.
if we can fathom a world that is good or evil, or does that just mean that we can't fathom a world where good and evil doesn't exist? I feel like that could just mean that that's the limit of our understanding.
Didn't we just fathom it on this podcast? It's like all animals. Just world
No,
without
we
people.
can't fathom. We can't. But we can fathom. But that world, it must still be good or evil. You see what I'm saying? That
Yes,
world where good
yes.
and evil doesn't exist. Yeah, that must be either a good world or an evil world.
Well, by my definition, you could because now I'm interpreting if it's a world where people can't feel, that could exist out there in the world, like an alien world, and an alien world that's just all animals with no people on it. That would be in accordance with God's will, because God put it there. And then, in my definition, no God, that world is out there and it exists, and good and evil does not exist on that planet because there's no pleasure in suffering. So yeah, in my definition, it could exist. We can fathom that. Thoughts?
Well, I'm thinking.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
But like, I mean, so you're saying it's neither good or evil? I guess by your definition, it can be neither good or evil. So I guess that does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like an ant farm.
I'm so ingrained in my definition that I had to sit and think about that for a second.
Yeah, this is good. It's good to like work those muscles, I think.
No, this is good, definitely.
Okay, nice. All right, I like
All
where
right
we
then.
ended.
Do you
there.
have anything? Do you have anything else to add?
No, we should just like summarize what we've done so far. So we've defined your definition of good, my definition of good, and we're going to continue with those two definitions throughout the.
They can. I think they should be free to change and evolve. But
Yeah,
for
we
sure.
should announce when they change and evolve, though.
Oh yeah, we must announce. I must make
Yeah.
a formal.
Well, every time we
an
bring up
announcement.
good, we have to define. Well, not every time we bring up good. We have to define. I think we got to open up every pod with our definitions of good and evil.
Hey guys, welcome back. I think good is.
Yeah, it's more like when it comes up. Like if when we talk about ads, we're gonna go like, and that's why ads are bad. And then I'm gonna ask you, oh yeah, and what do you mean by bad? And then you define it.
Our title should have been, "What do you mean by that?"
What do you mean by that? That's good. Okay, yeah, those are my final
right.
thoughts. Then we've got our final definitions, and those will be our definitions. Free to change and evolve, but that's what we're gonna be working with from here on in.
Yeah, we talked about whether good and evil exist.
Okay.
We talked about whether people can be good or evil. whether or not the feelings around good and evil affect how good or evil they are,
Yep.
and whether life would be more good, which doesn't make any sense if good or evil didn't exist.
But we found another
And
question out of
whether-
that question is, must good exist?
Yes. And by your definition, no, which is interesting. It's a very big difference between yours and mine. By your definition, no. By mine, yes.
Yeah.
If life exists, then yes.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I think that was a great conversation. I think
Cool.
that was very eye opening. I think
Hot off.
we both grew from
All right,
that.
do we end it?
So I'm yeah, Sean. I'm currently in the process of ending it. If you would stop interrupting me. Wait, you actually stopped recording? Bro, you gotta... It's just me right now. They don't hear you. This is crazy. Okay, I'm gonna sign off without you. Alright, whatever, man. Thank you for listening. We really hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, comments, concern, be sure to let us know. If you like the podcast, giving it a like or a thumbs up or a rating or whatever, that would be very helpful, and we'd appreciate it, as we are still, we're still small beans. But yeah, thanks for listening, and we hope you have a great day.